So I'm a reporter at Insider, and a few months ago I got a strange tip. A source told me that Elon Musk had more children than the public realized. So I did some reporting, and it was true. Elon Musk had secretly had twins with one of his employees. But after I published the story, I really felt like there was more to it.
American tech bros are reinventing eugenics, and this is something that should have everybody alarmed.
And it turns out that there's a whole movement in the tech community of people who believe that having lots of kids is the only way to save humanity from certain destruction. But wait, let me back up. First, you need to understand that the tech world is obsessed right now with the idea of the apocalypse. Long story short, some of these people believe that declining birth rates are going to lead to a shortage of the kinds of brilliant minds who can come up with solutions to our future problems. And who do they believe can bring such brilliant minds into the world? People like them. Now, there is one very controversial assumption here: the idea that intelligence is genetically inherited. Some critics are connecting this kind of thinking to a very dark, racist history of eugenics. But the truth is, there's a group of people who really do believe that it's their job to have as many children as possible, because it's going to be their descendants who save humanity from something like an asteroid strike or an AI takeover. Now, another interesting part of this is that Silicon Valley investors are suddenly starting to show a lot of new interest in fertility technology, stuff like artificial wombs, genetic testing on embryos, and creating human eggs out of stem cells.
So this TikTok by MJN Black points out how a lot of incredibly wealthy millionaires and billionaires, but especially tech bros, the Silicon Valley types, have gotten really invested into a lot of really sort of nightmarish ideas. The heart of it really being fundamentally eugenicist. And the reason why this is very explicitly eugenicist is because a lot of these people that talk about how, oh, declining birth rates, oh my goodness, it's so terrible, will also often talk about overpopulation and how they think overpopulation is a problem, which has some pretty obvious then implications. They think that some people aren't having enough babies, and that other people are having too many babies. It seems pretty clear and obvious what these people are getting at. And any journalist that pretends that this isn't eugenics, I think is fundamentally being dishonest. But so why does this happen? Why are so many wealthy capitalists stumbling on the idea of eugenics again, after we saw the horrific nightmares of the last century stemming from these ideas? Well, on one hand, a lot of these people quite literally are descendant from the people who were pushing eugenics before. We have to remember, Elon Musk is rich today because his parents were rich in apartheid South Africa, which very much had explicitly eugenicist programs in their government. And that is the environment that Elon Musk grew up in and from which his family attained wealth. So quite literally, a lot of the people running around pushing eugenics are either the children of, or sometimes the very same people that were pushing eugenics before. But another part of it has to do with the fact of capitalism and the narratives that capitalism uses to maintain itself. One of the central narratives that people are expected to believe under capitalism is that hard work and intelligence will grant you success in life, and that if you aren't successful, it must mean that you're either not intelligent enough or you're not working hard enough. That is a central narrative to capitalism. This idea of meritocracy is something that is used to prop up our deeply unequal system. But you see, in addition to the fact that it's simply not true and hard work and intelligence are nowhere near enough to actually be successful, it turns out you most often need an inheritance. But when you layer on top of that the extreme amount of like racism in our society and barriers for marginalized people when it comes to like attaining any type of financial success, then you start to realize that these capitalists push narratives that explicitly lead into eugenicist beliefs about the world. Because if they believe that you will be successful if you're intelligent and hardworking, then how do you explain the extreme amount of racial inequality in wealth, or gender inequality in wealth, or the inequality in wealth between cisgender heterosexual folks and queer folks? Fundamentally, to fill in that intellectual gap, instead of recognizing that capitalism might not be all that it's chalked up to be, these people fully embraced eugenics. But this is something that should have everybody really concerned, because the reality is, these people that have billions of dollars, people like Elon Musk, can quite literally shape huge chunks of the world economy. They can make decisions that can fundamentally change the future of the planet. And that is something that is terrible, because we do not live in a system that is very democratic at all. When incredibly wealthy individuals like this can reorganize huge sections of the economy based off of their ridiculous beliefs, then that puts us in a pretty vulnerable position as a species. So fundamentally, if we want to live in a world that isn't shaped primarily by literal eugenicists, then we fundamentally need to challenge the system of capitalism and take away the ability of millionaires and billionaires to dictate so much of our economy.